that are much harder than what you're going to want to do in your head. I got my calculator at Staples. It was $16 or $17, so there's no sense in spending money on a really, really expensive calculator that you'll never really use. Now, scientific notation is simply a shorthand way of writing numbers, really large numbers, so that they're easier to read. By placing everything as a number between 1 and 9.9 raised to a power. If we needed to write 210 million in scientific notation, it would be 2.1, taking these first two numbers and making it 2.1, so it's a number between 1 and 9.9. And we're going to raise it to 10 to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 power. That's how we got 10 to the 8th. If we wanted to write 327.5 in scientific notation, again, we would take these first two numbers and write it 3.275 so that it's between 1 and 9.9. And we've raised that to the 10 to the 1, 2. So that's how we get those powers. Now, if we wanted to write a really small number in exponential notation, we would do exactly the same thing, except our power of 10 would be a negative number. So if we want to write 800, this whole number as exponential notation, it's going to be 8.37, again, writing it as a number between 1 and 9.9, times 10 to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, negative 6, because we had to move our decimal point to the left 6 places to get to 8.37. We're also going to be talking about percents this semester, and I want you to realize that the percent sign itself is a 1 and 2 zeros. So it literally just means out of 100. 60% means 60 out of 100. 15% means 15 out of 100, and so on. But it can also be greater than 100. Percentages can be greater than 100. For example, 325% again means 325 out of 100. Or if you divide it, it's 3.25. You can convert a decimal to a percentage by moving the decimal point back 2 places. And this is always 2 places because a percentage is just out of 100. So if you had 0.88 and you wanted to know what percent that is, move the decimal to the right 2 places and add a percent sign. 3.25, move the decimal to the right 2 places and add a percent sign. Oftentimes we will use the word of simply to mean times or multiplication. For example, 46% of 90 can be written as 0.46 because we learned we could move the decimal point 2 places and drop the percent sign. Of is times 90, and then we're ready to work it out, and it's 41.4. What percentage is 14 out of 20? Well, we say 14 out of 20, or divided by 20 is 0.7. So 14 out of 20 is 0.7, and we can convert 0.7 to a percent by moving the decimal point 2 places and adding a percent sign, or it's 70%. We're also going to talk about markup and markdown using our percents that we just discussed. And the most important thing that we need to know about a markup or a markdown is where we start from. Mark up or mark down from where is very important. So markup is the retail price is going to equal the wholesale price plus your markup. Well, markup is going to equal your wholesale price times some percent of markup. Markdown is your sale price is going to be the retail price minus your markdown, where your markdown is the retail times some percentage down. Markup is wholesale times some percentage up. Markdown is retail times some percentage down. So if the retail price of an item is $50 and it is discounted by 25%, what is the sale price? Well, we would work that by taking $50 times 25%. Remember, that's going to be 25% is the same thing as 0.25. And that is a $12.50 discount. But that's just your discount. That is not your sales price. So the sales price will be $50 minus the discount, which is $37.5. The other way you can do that is to subtract your discount percent from 100%, and that is going to give you a discount of 75%. So if you take your original price times 0.75 or 75%, you're going to get to the same answer. If a cell phone is purchased at wholesale for $200 and it is marked up by 150%, what is the retail price? Well, we will take $200 plus our markup is 200 times 1.5. Remember, 150% is going to be 1.5. So that is 200 plus 300, or $500, is the retail price. So we'll say retail right here. Likewise, if you know a new phone costs $625 and it has already been marked up by 180%, what is the wholesale price? Well, we know the wholesale price plus the wholesale price times 1.8, that is the markup, equals 625. That is X, or 1x, plus 1.8x. That's going to give us 2.8x is $625. X is 625 divided by 2.8, dividing both sides of our equation by 2.8. We're going to be left with X equals $223.21. Now, sales tax works in a similar way to markup because it's exactly the same thing as a markup. You have an original price, you have to mark it up by the sale price, the sales tax. And your book gives you a current sales tax number in Virginia. That is an older number, but the current sales tax in Virginia is 4.3%. Most localities add an additional 1%, so for what we're going to do, we're going to use 5.3% as our current sales tax number in Virginia. So if you bought an item for $19.95 and you knew you had to add sales tax of 5.3%, you would have $19.95 plus $1.06 is $21.01. I'm sure this isn't news to any of you. You've had to live with this and deal with this forever. However, it's really kind of fun to play around with the way these numbers work. So let's say you paid $94.95 for a pair of shoes in one state, where the sales tax was 6%. How much would you pay for these shoes in Virginia if the retail prices were exactly the same? We'll assume that they start out at the same price, but if you buy them in one state, you have to pay 6%. In Virginia, you only have to pay 5.3%. So we know that some number plus that number times 6% gave us 94.95. That's what we started with. So again, if we add 1x to 0.06x, we get 1.6x is 94.95. Dividing both sides by 1.6, we find that the retail price of our shoes without any taxes was $89.58. So if we were going to buy those in Virginia, we know that we would start with $89.58 and we would add $89.58 plus our sales tax of 5.3% or 0.053. So it would be $89.58 plus $4.75, which is $94.33. And when you're doing these problems, stop and ask yourself, does that make sense? For example, if we would have paid 6% in one state, but we know in Virginia we can get it for 5.3%, we know the price should be a little lower in Virginia because the taxes are lower. So when you get your answer, compare it back to where you started and say, does that make any sense? Is it a little lower than where I was originally? And it's always going to be handy to stop and ask yourself, does my answer make any sense? So with that, I'd like for you to look at the homework on page 4. I'd like for you to do exercises 1, 2, and 3 on that page. And then on pages 7 and 8, I'd like for you to do exercises 1 through 7. I will not be collecting homework. I just want you to do these so that you can see yourself if you understand the concepts that we talked about today. If not, always reach out to me, send me an email. We can hop into my Zoom classroom, and I'll always make sure that you have full comprehension of everything that we're doing.